Swiss banking. Just say the words and you probably get a picture in your head, right? Secrecy, security, just mountains of wealth. For a long time, it was the world's financial safe house, no question. But that perfect, shiny legend, it's got more than a few dents in it now. So today, we're going to dive into how this tiny alpine nation built a financial fortress, how that fortress almost came crashing down, and what in the world its future might look. You know this scene. I'm sure you do. Our hero, cool as a cucumber, walks into this grand, ridiculously quiet bank. They slide a piece of paper with just a number on it to this stern-looking banker. The banker doesn't say a word, just disappears into a vault and comes back with a box full of gold. And in that moment, you know exactly where you are. A Swiss bank. But how much of that is just Hollywood magic and how much is the real deal? Well, that movie image, there's a kernel of truth to it, for sure. But the real story, the one that actually matters, doesn't start with gold bars. It starts with a completely unique history that let a small country with almost no natural resources become a financial giant centuries before the Industrial Revolution even kicked off. It's a pretty wild origin story. Look, to understand the banks, you first have to understand the country. It all kicks off in 1291 with the Defense Pact. But the real game changer, that came in 1515. After getting absolutely hammered by the French in a battle, the Swiss made a decision that would define them forever. No more wars. We're out. They embraced neutrality. That idea became official in 1648. Yeah, there was a bumpy period in 1798 when the French invaded, but that shakeup eventually led to the modern Swiss state in 1848, with a single market and one currency. Every single one of these steps was another brick in that foundation of stability. So how did they get so rich? Well, it was this perfect storm of factors. You had Protestant refugees pouring in, bringing skills and, more importantly, cash. The Reformation helped too. When the church's enormous properties were seized, it basically created a huge national savings account right there in Bern. For centuries, Swiss mercenaries were the best in the business, and all their pay and loot got sent right back home. And when you don't have a king spending a fortune on palaces or a massive army to feed, and your society is pretty stable, well, the money just starts to pile up. This quote is what really gets me. It shows just how deep this culture of saving money went. This wasn't just a game for the rich. That Protestant work ethic meant that everyone, even people with pretty modest jobs like house servants, were saving their money and using banks. I mean, think about that. That was totally unheard of anywhere else in the world back then. Okay, so you take this deep-seated culture of saving, you combine it with that unique history of stability, and bam, you've just set the stage for the golden age of Swiss banking in the 20th century. After the absolute chaos of 2 world wars, Switzerland's stability made it the obvious choice. It became, without a doubt, the banker to the world. And if you want to know why, this one number tells you almost everything you need to know. 2%. That was the average inflation for the Swiss franc for 100 years, a period that had the Great Depression, 2 world wars, the oil crisis, you name it. In a world that was constantly on fire, the franc was a rock. And if you want some perspective, just look next door. In that same century, Switzerland devalued its currency once. France? 14 times. So let me ask you, if you had wealth you needed to protect from all that, what's next? Can Swiss banking actually reinvent itself for this new world? The future for them is a real high-wire act. On one hand, you still got Switzerland's core stability, which is a huge plus. The banks that are left are super profitable, and they're making smart plays in new areas like crypto and green finance. But the risks? They are enormous. You now have one single megabank, UBS. If it gets into trouble, it could take the whole country down with it. They're also having a hard time connecting with the next generation of wealthy people, and they're facing brutal competition from places like Singapore and Dubai. And this chart right here, this gets to the absolute heart of their problem. The whole Swiss model was built to serve European money. But look where the new money is coming from. The fastest growth is in the Asia-Pacific and North America. Europe is slowing way down. If Swiss banks can't figure out how to win over these new markets, they're just going to become less and less relevant. So when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one question. Through its entire history, Switzerland's greatest skill has never really been making watches or cheese. It's been adaptation. They're pragmatic. They pivot. After a crushing military defeat, they become neutral. After the world tears itself apart in war, they become the world's banker. So the question now, after decades of scandals and decline, is a simple one. Can they do it one more time?